is my poster presentation on the first mammals on Earth. The first mammals was an important evolution on Earth. Although the first mammals fossils are very rare to find till this day, we're able to learn a lot based on the bones and teeth that are left behind. The chasing in jaws was one of the key points that helped scientists learn about the first mammals. The jaw had a dentary palate that got bigger and took over most of the jaw over time. The jaw was also able to connect to the ear, and that was another part of the mammal evolution. The skull as well was another key point. Scientists were able to conclude that the earliest mammals' brain sizes were actually 1.5 times bigger than cynodonts. Although most of the mammals were also wiped out with the dinosaurs, there was one tiny little mammal called a tiny shrew that was able to adapt and evolve to the Earth's vast space left behind. So, what do we think about mammals? So when we think about mammals of today, we can list their characteristics such as having fur, producing milk, and being warm-blooded, right? However, the first mammals who appeared almost over 230 million years ago during the Triassic period might not have had these features at all. We are unsure because rock records don't preserve warm blood or hair. Fossil records do, though, preserve dental and bones. Early mammal fossils are very rare, but these discoveries tell us a lot about the evolution of our ancestors. With the first mammal-like reptile to the chases and jaws, we were able to see the evolution of the mammals. Before the Triassic period, where the first mammals appeared, the continents were all connected together called Pangaea. During the Mesozoic, Pangaea split into Laurasia, which is North America, Europe, and Asia, and Gondwana, which is South America, Africa, Australia, and India. These continents went into more changes over time. Some continents were flooded by shallow seas, which led to creating isolated land masses. The continental fragmentation led to the divergence of different lineage of mammals, such as the Castrocauda, which is a small beaver-like animal. It was built for semi-marine lifestyle, having a beaver-like tail and hydrodynamic arms and legs. So one of the key points that I found about first mammals on Earth was that before the first mammal was discovered, there was reptiles that show similar characteristics to mammals. So cynodonts is what they were called. So cynodonts appeared in the late Permian period. These reptilian features, they had reptilian features such as they were cold-blooded and stuff like that, but they had noticeably mammal features as well. There was an increased amount of muscle around the jaws, which is something reptiles don't usually have, which gave them more control over chewing. And also they were able to form a secondary palate, the bone that is formed on the roof of the mouth. That allowed them to breathe through their noses while chewing food, and that helped them feel more around the day and had a higher metabolism, and so that meant that they were more active, and that helped give a clue that they were also warm-blooded. Although one of the key differences about cynodonts and mammals is that they do not have a dentary squamosal jaw, which is one of the key features that the first true mammals did have. So, like I said before, one of the key findings that scientists were able to find was that after the dinosaur extinction, almost every animal group was wiped out. There was a tiny mammal that was left behind that was able to adapt to the changes. So it was a small shrew-like animal. It was called a Morgancotis. And this fossil was discovered in China, and it's one of the oldest evidence of true mammals. It dates under over 160 million years ago. Fossil species called, so that species, what I just said before, is called from a Urhamania sinensis. That means that although they are similar to the marsupial lineage, which means kangaroo, they're born when they have a pouch. The teeth were more similar to placental line, that is a lineage that connects more to us. As you can see through this little graph that I included, it shows you the little lineage of mammals during the Jurassic and the Cretaceous periods. And the graph shows the different types of mammals. The Huarinian species was considered to be one of the oldest mammals that clearly demonstrates its kinematic to the placental line. One of the key findings that I was able to find about mammals was the changes in jaws and the changes in skull. Like I mentioned before, that was one of the key findings. So the jaw in the first three mammals, their dentary palate got bigger until made up most of the jaw. Different parts of the skull were rearranged, and the jaw was able to join now to the skull, which is something that wasn't normal back then, and this was part of the evolution. And that evolved into a joint between the dentary bone and the jaw, and the squamosome in the skull, which is one of the key findings that scientists are able to differentiate from reptiles and mammals. And that's found in modern animals like humans. And so in the little figure that I showed below, the mammal jaw clearly demonstrates the dentary palate taking up most of the space, while the reptile doesn't really, only takes a little bit. So it doesn't have a lot of control to its food. So that's why it doesn't chew. It's not active. It's very cold-blooded. And then another key finding was the changes in skulls. So like I mentioned before as well, one of the earliest mammals' brain sizes were actually 1.5 times bigger than the cynodonts, or their relatives. So that meant that the front of the brain was actually larger and more complex and folded. It also had the olfactory bulb, which is larger than their ancestors. And that meant that the first mammals were nocturnal, and that they needed a good sense of smell to hunt. And so that bulb was able to help them out. And then that's why the skull had to change to accommodate to their brain size. Alrighty, so how does this affect the earth? So mammals were mammals. So the first mammal was able to evolve and affected the earth so much that this is what we are now. So about 65 million years ago, there was a mass extinction called the Cake-Tea extinction that wiped out many great animal groups such as the dinosaurs, marine reptiles, and mammals. Although mammals are also part of the animal group that became extinct, one of the first true mammals were able to adapt to the ecological spaces left behind, because there is so much space left that they were able to just wander the earth without having, predators, because dinosaurs were killed. They were able to eat whatever they want, so they were able to change their diet. They traveled the whole world since they were able to be in different places. And the first mammals evolved to the Earth's ways, and that affected every sphere. They became top of the food chart and became the dominant vertebrate species. And so the picture below the figure actually has what a Morgan Coatis looks like. So that's a tiny shoot that lived among the dinosaurs around 210 to 230 million years ago. And then the figure below is just one of the food chains. I just want people to see that mammals are on top of the food chains, and you can see that the reptiles are the second top, which means that we are a dominant species. And as you can see below, I just let my references on the information that I was able to find and use and help me guide. So that's it.